This is back country. You're in back country tonight, and we're taking over the airwaves. You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Check
No.
out. Hello, we got WHAM here with us. We got Stephanie Quick. We got Christina
Hi.
Giordano
Hey.
with us. This is the Bad Santa Christmas.
Bad Santa. Bad Santa. Santa's so bad.
That's Billy Bob Thornton. The first one's really good. The second one, they really messed that one up. I don't know what happened with that one. But anywho, check out Dead Sky Publishing. They have a lot of weird splatter westerns. And if you want to check out their new Weird West anthology with Joe R. Lansdale and Al Goingback, you can check it out at Dead Sky Publishing. Basically, it's kind of like just a free-for-all, a Christmas party, the last show of the year. And just briefly, coming up January 5th when we return is Eric Grimsrud about your, I know so many of you love Trump, so this whole show is going to be about Trump being the Antichrist and then Napoleonic, it's okay, a Napoleonic type figure, much like Napoleon or Hitler, and you can see it in his little squirmy little eyes. But that's going to be a whole show, and Eric's broke it down to Trump to mean Mabus, and it's creepy. Like there's something to it, but to each their own. And then we got Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, and that'll be our second show of January when we come back. And still scheduling. So, Christina Giordano, that's right. The third week we got her for a show in the guest capacity, and then after that is the Satanist dude.
Satanist dude.
Dun, dun, dun,
Satanist dude. Satanist dude.
Creepy. I have to act like Geraldo Rivera in that one, and that's not easy for me. But so what's up, Stephanie? Oh, there's one last thing I want to say. Mm-hmm. Lately, I've dealt with a lot of Scrooge-type personalities in my life, and I don't want to name names, but it revolves around my work at a site I work at and I post content for. This dude just hijacked their bonus and used it to save a preacher to pay his court costs and was like, oh, there are Scrooges out there. I'm going through the Christmas Carol right now. There are people who make money off the backs of other people and don't believe in trickle down. And this guy, luckily I get my regular pay, but I'm $3,000 in bonus for that he's taken and hustled off to some weird, I don't know, it's just insane. But the Christmas Carol, it's happening, and hopefully ghosts come and wrestle him from his sheet and anybody else mess with people in a Scrooge-like fashion. But that's all I want to say. It's turning my face red. But so what have you been up to? What's Stephanie been up to?
Well, I've been hanging out. I've been having lupus and health situations, so I've been kind of dealing with that. And then it's been very cold around here. I mean, we're in Northern California, so it's been 32 degrees, 33 degrees at night, which is not that cold in most places, but for us here, we're not used to it. So I've been trying to keep my mom warm, just getting ready for the Christmas stuff. And I found out that my rheumatologist is quitting medicine, so I got to try and find a new rheumatologist. And of course, they don't have anyone in the county. So it's just kind of a lot of life stuff. But so you asked if I wanted to come on a couple days ago. And of course, I was talking with you guys, and Christina is here, so even better. But you said it was going to be about bad Santa or weird Christmas stuff. And so I sent out some feelers to some of my sources, and I got some weird stuff going on. I don't know. First of all, there's speaking of naughtiness around Christmas time, I have a friend from college.
Naughtiness.
Mariana Perlaki. And so I said, she is of Hungarian extraction. So I said, do you have any Hungarian stuff going on? So she did a little research and asking around, and she found It's kind of like a folk custom, and you have a lot of these folk customs that are like divination around times when the veil is supposed to be thin, right? So Christmas, it's like the darkest night coming up, and solstice and everything. So there tend to be a lot of these kind of ghost and divination rituals. But they have a ritual that you can perform if you are a young unmarried girl and you would like to know who your husband is going to be. So what you do is on Christmas Eve, you get ready for bed, but you just put on like a shirt, like no underwear or pants or anything. And you get a broom in your bedroom and you start sweeping from the outside part of the room and sweeping in and in and in and in and in. And then when you finally get it, so you swept all in the center of the room, you look out your window and you'll see your future husband. And I'm thinking that, I don't know. I mean, you could say that like the sweeping is putting you into a trance and clearing all the obstacles from you and everything. But a part of me wonders if it's just like, okay, if everyone knows about this, then you get like all these weird perverts running around looking like young girls' windows to see if they can see them, like, and just a shirt.
First thing I thought of was Salem's Lot with the little kid floating out the window of the Salem Lot.
So I don't know how current that is or anything, but it's possibly charming, possibly felonious type of
Felonious.
The weirder, the better.
Tradition.
Yeah.
So I got some other ones. Well, we may as well go there immediately. So I was talking to. So do you want to hear about the spectral pig that was possibly, or do you want to hear about
spectral pig?
Or do you want to hear about the Yule logs of the Catalan area of Spain?
Spectral pig.
Sure.
Okay, let me go with the pig first.
Yeah, sure, because there's a pig thing happening.
There's a pig in the room. There's a pig in the room.
Exactly. This is kind of, well, maybe disturbing for her, so you may want to hold her little ears. Okay, so I had reached out to some people, and Simon Hesselager Johansson is a very sweet man and an artist, and he and Thomas, I think Brigson, do a project called Hid Denmark, which is a kind of art and tourism travel project about all these interesting spots in Denmark where there have been like UFO sightings or elf sightings or standing stones, different things like that. So it's a lot of fun to go check it out. They have pictures and descriptions and maps, and then Simon makes a lot of drawings and paintings of these events as well. So it's fun. So he told me about something from their area. It's called the Glosso, or what's it called? The glowing sow, I think. Basically, Carl Schuker is a blogger, and he talks about a lot of these like strange cryptids and animals, like winged cats and stuff. He has an article on the Glosso, and Simon sent it to me, and then my mom read it to me. So this may not be exactly perfect and every fact about these ideas, but the idea is that like back in the medieval times, when in Sweden, when they were building a church, they would have a sacrifice for the foundation, right? There's this very old idea that you have a blood sacrifice that is knit into the foundation of these important buildings as kind of like a guardian of the area. Now, it would either be a human sacrifice or a sow, right? A female pig. So the idea was that this sacrifice was meant to kind of bind the spirit of this pig to the church and the churchyard as a protective spirit. So most of the time, I guess they're pretty chill with what's going on. But around Christmas time, these wild boar spirits become like ghost pigs that, unless you are confront them in a particular way, they become very aggressive and will try and attack and and pursue you. I guess that they will chase people, and the main highlight. I don't know if it's really a highlight, but their main, let's say, method of attack is first of all they will snort fire, and they're trying and aim it like directly for the butthole as you're running away. And then when you're slowed down by this burning sensation in your nether regions, they kind of come under you. And you know how a lot of wild boars, they have like that line of bristles? So they're trying to get the line of bristles like right up under the taint and take you out.
Goodness.
I guess if you are brave enough and confront them and stand your ground, then it's possible that you can be granted wishes or have some type of divination. You're able to kind of see the future of the next year, and it's like a bunch of like slides going quickly in front of your face. That's supposed to be how it is. If you're brave enough to kind of stand your ground with these glowing sows that come at you, and otherwise they are known to gnaw. They like to, well, you know how pigs like to eat. I don't know if anyone watched Deadwood. But it's like a Deadwood scenario with these pigs.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. Yeah, I can see that.
And then they also like to sharpen their tests on the edge of the gravestones as well. So, yeah, I guess pigs are known for that. I don't know if it seems like this would be something I would have told a story on this show before, but I don't know if I have. My dad's dad lived most of his life in Fresno, California, which is in the Great Central Valley, and but it's close to the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas, where you have a lot of agriculture and everything around there. And in like the 40s or 50s, he was called to be on a jury. He didn't actually serve on the jury, but he was like sitting there for the voir dire and everything. And the circumstances of the crime were that these guys had gone and they had gone to like a ranch, and they had tied up the owner, who was an old guy, and left him in his house while they had robbed it. And then they left him tied up, and they knew there were pigs there. And so they were being tried for murder. Yeah. So you got these ferocious pigs running around.
See, that just, I know pigs because my grandpa raised hogs. Mm-hmm. And, hogs can be really good little pets, because they're smart and they're buds, but they're smart, but they can just be vicious too,
They're like people.
They are very much like people, which is why I think I can't eat them. I feel like I'm committing cannibalism.
Yeah, it's terrible that they taste so delicious. Apparently people do as well. So in case anyone is worried about overeating.
Oh, sorry.
They're called long pig for a reason. Or I guess, huh? But yeah, if anyone was worried about overeating at the holiday season, just play this on repeat, because the next one is not going to want to whet your appetite either. So I was.
I'm sorry.
So, I was talking. Now I want to credit her as inspiring me on this. Willow Truman of the Nonsense Bazaar. If you like weird topics, that's a great show, and they have a big archive. So I was chatting with her about this recent trend for coffee enemas on like TikTok and stuff. The new twist is that people, well, it's mostly like these white ladies, are
surrounded by white ladies. Okay,
are demonstrating in real time, like on a live stream, how easy it is to
oh my god,
administer for a little pick me up. I guess I mean, it's supposed to have like 8 million benefits and be very spiritual. He's like. Anyway, you can Don't search it.
I saw an article about people hitting themselves in the face with a hammer, like in a new trend.
Oh,
Like it's like, what the hell is going on?
nothing good. At any rate,
manipulation or
yes,
something.
yes.
I don't know.
This one lady was talking about, and it's like you almost have like a almost instantaneous release of toxins. It's like, well, yeah, there's no idea behind any enemy.
Oh, so this is very naughty. Okay.
Okay.
Where does the French vanilla go?
Yes. How is this related to Christmas? You might ask. This. So in
this season, you might ask.
Yes.
We've been like on an eggnog Evan Williams binge, just like this eggnog in a bottle that's got like rum, whiskey, brandy.
Oh, that reminds me. I have some Jim Beam over there.
It sounds delicious.
I haven't had any
Jim Beam.
the last few nights I've had it, and I have to be careful because of the lactose.
So,
continue on.
In the Catalan region of Spain.
The Catalan region of Spain.
They have elaborate nativity scenes. You have them all over the world. In Christian countries, where you have, the baby Jesus in the manger and all the three kings and Mary and Joseph and the angels, everything, the farm animals and everything. But they have an extra figure called El Cagane, which translates to the defecator. And it is usually, it started out as like a farmer looking type of guy, just kind of wearing like a white shirt and dark trousers and a traditional Catalan red kind of beret hat. And he is popping a squat and dropping a deuce. And
popping a squat. I've never heard that one. That just made me. You have to understand now that I have chickens. That's like a very specific visual because chickens kind of walk around and they'll just be walking around. And they go, and it just comes out. Or every now and then you'll see it come out slow, and it's like. I don't know if you've ever seen a cloaca, but it looks like a little pursed mouth, and
yep.
It sort of goes like this. I don't know if I can do this. It sort of looks like it goes, except for a tongue comes out. It's really funny. It's like you have the funniest butt ever. And not only an eggs come out of there. Oh my God. Well, this is a naughty time. This is paranormal, quasi paranormal,
paracloacal.
Paracloacal. Boy, that cloacal.
So this is like the traditional
word. I mean, you think of that. I'm not even drunk, people. I'm like on no drugs at all.
Is this the Christmas spirit?
We've been lately watching some like Christmas horror movies. There's some good ones. There's Rare Exports, which is on Screenbox, but it's like a Finnish, I think. But the guy
I haven't seen that. I've always wanted to see that one. It looks really good.
It's on Screenbox. It's pretty cheap, like $5 a month or something, with a lot of weird stuff on Screenbox. But basically, it's about like a Santa Claus that's pretty much like the ferocious eats children, and they catch it, and then it gets crazy. It's definitely insane. And like one of those that you should like watch every December. But another one that we just saw that came out, Something's in the Barn, and it's Norway, and basically all these like the yard gnome, typical look of the yard gnome. It's elves in the barn, and they go crazy and attack a family, and it's like all these bearded elves everywhere. But it's from Norway. But there's some good ones. Krampus, that's a good one by the guy that did Trick or Treat. Like we like to find. There's some good ones. You can turn Christmas into Halloween real quick.
Well, that's actually true, because a lot of the, when the Catholic Church did all of their sort of machinations of trying to get people to worship and do different things, a lot of the a lot of the real pagan stuff, like from Samhain or from May Day, got moved to around solstice, because solstice was the one holiday, because it's close to Christmas. It was the one holiday they couldn't get people to get rid of. And so what you find, like in the English tradition and in the German tradition, you find, well, actually the Scandinavian tradition too, you find that it's really around solstice, the period between what we would call Halloween and solstice, and that you do get that really dark stuff. It's where Krampus comes from, and why Krampus is associated, with Christmas. It's because it's in the first part of December, but it's part of that whole process. It has to do, well, Odin, Santa Claus with the reindeer and everything. That's derived from the Wild Hunt, Odin's Wild Hunt, which were the blasts of wind of winter that would come in, and so the reindeers. The reindeer, or the 8 reindeer, was sort of interpreted from the 8 legs of Sleipnir, Odin's steed. Oh, wow. So the image of Santa Claus that we have is a combination of several things. He wasn't even depicted as having red clothing until the late 19th century, and that was a marketing thing, actually early 20th century. And that was a marketing thing in the United States. In Europe, he often wears blue or gray or brown clothing like Odin would. So it's, if you think of Odin and who Odin is, that's kind of the prototype for Santa.
Yeah.
Which, is a lot darker and kind of,
Well, it's the whole, first of all, before we forget, I wanted to see if you guys could see, here's one of the traditional carignan, but they also make them of celebrities and superheroes, and, here's Batman. I don't know if you can see.
It's just people pooping.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because it started, I guess, like back in the 1600s that they started producing these, and then it just became a thing. I think you get these scholars are trying to say, well, it was a reaction to the Baroque art form of the time because it was like too frou-frou and they wanted to ground it, or that it's like a fertility good luck thing. Like you would fertilize the fields, and so it was just be like fertilizing the Christmas celebration. So it's a good luck thing. It's like the anus is like a portal to all good things or something. I don't know what they're trying to
say.
Whoa.
And we started out with cloacas, and now we were like right there. Okay.
To be an anatomy class.
We always end up in poop somehow. It's just a poop.
Okay. This is going to be our last show ever. Okay. But what was that? What was it called? The little statues again? The technical name?
El Caganer. Caganer. And it's funny because you'll see that they have these. I went on this one site and they have just like hundreds of them. They'll have like everyone from like Obama, Dumbledore, Wonder Woman, down to just like local sports stars and stuff like that, or politicians.
It's just a little statue of someone pooping.
That's basically the long and the short of it, and it's been going on for hundreds of years, and it's just like
humanity, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
But one thing I want to say really quick, so I don't forget, is there's this place that Christina told me about, Citizens Petition to Stop Animal Cruelty. And it's basically a place that took down this beagle farm where they were doing crazy, insane experiments on dogs that are just sick. I called and prank called that place, and I said, hell's coming. And then next thing you know, they really got shut down by this place. And the place is called Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. That's PCRM.org, and they basically go after these crazy sicko places that do crazy. Like they had like basically dogs like Jack, my dog who passed, just doing crazy like Nazi stuff, like from the camps on these dogs, like weird stuff, just sick. So this place takes them down. That's pcrm.org. You can donate and get more stuff from them. But Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Oh, that's good to know about.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like I couldn't. Just as they tore that place down, and they were basically just doing crazy stuff, like starving them, and just weirdness for sure. So, is there any particular movies y'all like to watch during this time? Anyone for Christmas, like a movie that needs to be watched?
I'm not a good movie watcher.
Nothing.
Nothing. I don't think. What do I say?
I do Bad Santa, but not every year.
Yeah, I saw some. Oh, you know what? I was looking at there was some article talking about more unexpected but good Christmas movies, and I remembered that The Apartment, if you guys know that one, with Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon, actually is a Christmas movie. How it ends up, and then Fanny and Alexander. I haven't seen that one in a long time. I saw it in the theater, about Ingmar Bergman's movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically it's very much about his childhood, and possibly foreshadowing your guest coming up in January, Jeffrey. But it's the Fanny and Alexander is like him and his sister and their little kids, like pubescent, and their mom and dad run a theater troupe. And it starts out at this Christmas dinner, and it's just like, paradise, magical, hilarious, gorgeous, a lot of love, a lot of fun. Actually, there's a great scene where like the one uncle who's kind of older and fat gets all the kids at the top of the staircase, and he runs down and up, and then he runs down and up, and then he runs up, the third time. And this is like takes place in like the early 1900s. And so the kid holds the candle and he farts it out.
See, more butt stuff.
It's just a theme. I don't know, but yeah, and also, of course, the kids. This is like the highlight of their lives in this movie. But so it's like very paradisal. Then his father dies unexpectedly, and his mother ends up marrying this guy, and it's up in I guess he's Swedish, Ingmar Bergman. Very austere, fundamentalist, abusive man, and it's just like it goes from like heaven to hell, and then he dies in a very terrible way, and they're reconciled with their larger family and stuff. But yeah, it's a really good Christmas movie, and it is very dark and dealing with like the dark side of religion too. So
what's it called? Annie McPhee?
Fanny and Alexander by Bergman. Yeah, it was one of his last movies.
Actually, yeah, I've heard of that. Actually, I haven't.
It is really good. Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I mean, obviously, but very lush, very austere. Very. He dies in a really awful, horrible way. But yeah. So yeah, that's a good one. But other than that, I'm not. My mom and my husband watch a lot of movies and a lot of TV, and I'm just like not a good person that way.
And recently, Stephanie and Wham, we saw that weird Bigfoot post on Facebook.
Oh yeah,
I was trying to, like, I tried to look up those people, and I don't see anything on there about them. So I was wondering if it's like AI or is it a real dude? Like, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I mean, it sounds like something. I mean, you read enough reports and you see enough of what people post online, and I would believe that someone would post that. But yeah, it was like basically they felt the spirit of Bigfoot, and it was like Jesus Christ, and then that spirit of Bigfoot asked them to put on some Christian songs, and they felt blessed.
According to a giant, like, a lot of Bigfoots came, and they had like a Christian jamboree and played Christian songs. I think someone made it up, but that's why I was trying to find the account. So I mean, maybe like a 1% chance it's true. I don't really know, but my first reaction to it is this BS. But What's weird though, you can't find the accounts anywhere or any of those people. Like they don't exist. So it was just weird because the Bigfoots were like Zorf, and they were calling them.
That's right. Great name.
And it's like somebody's tripping. But and the Bigfoots want to listen to Christian gospel. Like that's the first I've ever heard of that. Like put on some Christian music. It's me, Zorf.
The Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Zorf.
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 Yeah. Most of the time I hear these preachers talking about if you say Bible stuff to them, they go away like they're Nephilim or something. So it's a different point of view that I usually am not used to.
Yeah.
Pro-Christian Bigfoots, but I mean, anything's possible. Who knows? But what's weird is there's no accounts. So
yeah. I mean, it has more credibility if you have someone who's over time is kind of sticking to their story, and you can kind of see that. But yeah, and I'm sure people like to put weird stuff out there just to amuse themselves. That's one of the things that I've been thinking about this show, because of course I always like to have a theme. I can't just say a bunch of weird stuff randomly. So besides defecation, the other theme I was thinking of is
besides defecation. See, she always has to bring it up. Besides defecation.
You have like hoaxes and deception.
Oh, yes.
That's all about it.
Playing tricks on people.
Playing tricks, disguising. When I lived for probably about 15 years it was like a mother-in-law unit. So it was like there was like a ranch house, and then we had like the kind of apartment that the guy who lived in the house had built, actually for him and his wife, but it was 2 stories, and then she got really bad heart disease. So they stayed in their house and rented out the unit that we were in. It was really beautiful, and these oak trees and everything. But his daughter was living with him and her son. And so part of what was great about our unit is that it had a couple of different kind of attic spaces where you could store a lot of stuff. So every year for when Christmas would start to come around, Kevin, Doreen's son, would have, his regular presents, then he'd have his Santa presents. And they would have like Santa wrapping and like Santa ribbon and Santa pin. I mean, everything was different from the Santa stuff. And so what we do is that we like kind of shared kind of a carport space, and we had a washer and dryer there. And so Doreen would put everything like in the dryer, and then I would take it and I would put it up in the attic. So he had to, I think he was going to go into like middle school when finally they had a lot of cousins. His cousin had to pull him aside and say, okay, look, Santa, if you start talking about Santa at middle school, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So we got to bring you up to speed. But we had like such a system down for like from the time that he was just like, 2 or 3 up until he was like 12 or something. We had him completely strong. And he would be like tearing their house apart. Kitty, hi, sweetie. He would be like, going in our backyard. He would be like looking in our windows and everything, but we had him snow. But it's like this whole idea that the whole basis of the magic of Christmas, right? Like in America and a lot of places, is that, you're pulling the wool over people's eyes, right?
Yeah.
You're basically lying to the people nearest and dearest. There is a show that I listened to, and it was in like 2012, I think, on This American Life. And it's number 482. It's called Lights, Camera, Christmas. And it's about a family called the Muchlers. And it has stuck with me for all this time. The dad's name is Glenn. And then they had 3 little kids. And so Glenn would get these people roped in. They lived in a house, and there was like a wooded area, and then there was a golf course. So there was kind of like this area. He would hire people or get in touch with people, like friend of a friend, to dress up every year, like, like in tatters and like all whatever. And it would be like Kris Kringle was coming, and he was helping Santa, and he was trying to find their house. And they have like some weird kind of like, disheveled old guy with a beard with, stuff and furs on him and everything coming in like, from the woods, trying to find them. They spot him in the woods. They might invite him in. And he had this whole lore about Kris Kringle and helping Santa Claus and what it's like up at the North Pole. And there's this way, there's things like, he'd come in, the guy said, "Could you turn the lights down? Because I have snow blindness from being up at the North Pole." I mean, just like really very elaborate. I guess the best year that they all remember is one year he came in and he had gifts for them that was just like vegetables. And then he pulled out these bones and he said, this bone this is the bones of Rudolph, the reindeer, and it's a whistle, and I use it to call the other reindeers. And so he was blowing on it and they couldn't hear anything. He's like, no, it's like a dog whistle. Only the reindeer can hear it. So of course these kids are just going apeshit. So it's like this huge elaborate thing. However, now the two kids that are younger, a boy and girl, they ended up enjoying it and liking it. But the one kid, Adam, really bought into it. He would argue with everyone until he was like 13 or 14 at school. He'd get in fights and everything about Santa. And then when it finally came out that, this was just like a holiday thing, he fell out with his dad. He was like in his 30s when this was recorded. And he's still like, the people that you love, that you trust the most, were lying to you for like a decade. He's still not over it. And the thing too is that his dad won't admit. He's like, well, things happened. You have an experience. And it's just, I would encourage anyone to listen to it. It's really wild. But it gets at the whole thing that, it's like, well, it's so wholesome when we're doing all these special things for the kids and everything, but that there's like a tension in there of, how do you handle it? Most kids, they handle the disillusion, they handle finding out about it, they're able to integrate it. But then you have other things where it's still like a huge schism in this family. He won't talk to his dad in his 30s. I would love it if they would do a follow-up show on that, because I've always wondered, would the dad ever like give over and admit that, yeah, maybe this wasn't like the greatest way to handle it for this one kid because he won't talk to me for like a decade.
And what's that show called? It's
This American Life, and it's from the archives. It's number 482. It's called Lights, Camera, Christmas.
Huh.
And it's one of the segments. It's only like about, I don't know, a quarter of an hour long. But just like the whole lore and experience of, this guy kind of stumbling in, and he's like snowblind and has these bones like turnips.
Weird.
Yeah. But then also that, how it handled, how it ended up shaking out in this family, that it was just like this huge betrayal, is how this one son puts it. Which is terrible, because like the other two kids are like, yeah, it was like super cool. We really loved it. So
sounds interesting for sure. We had some interest lately in the Dogman stuff and watching a lot of documentaries on that on Tubi. Tubi has some pretty good ones. American Werewolves. There's one Skinwalker, Ragaroo, or whatever. Then there's another one, Dogman Triangle, which is basically it's just interesting. I know Christina's told a story where she woke up dragged out of a tent when she was younger, like felt like something tried to take her out of the tent while she was sleeping and woke up out of it. And we recently were going down a highway near here, and on the right-hand side saw a strange wolf-like creature. But I don't know, we don't know what it was, but it was definitely weird and golden with strange hair. And I haven't heard of wolves being here, but it was like down in the gutter or whatever on the side of the road looking for something. And then I know a lot of these shows that the natives talk about, a lot of the people see them on the side of the road looking for roadkill. But it was just a weird thing. But the weirdest thing about those documentaries, there's a lot of witnesses that are telling stories, and one guy's anonymous, and it's from Small Town Monsters, which is that Seth Breedlove and all that.
Yeah.
And he's anonymous and telling how he peed himself from an experience. And it sounded pretty good, but it's just interesting. I know Linda Godfrey, and there's like a whole town that we're getting reportings and keep taking it serious, and the sheriff like collects them and all that stuff. But it's just, I know the dog man seems harder to believe than Bigfoot in a lot of situations. So for some reason, it's just kind of harder to swallow, I guess. But there's something to it.
You know, Claudia Ackley, she died not too long ago, but she was a big Bigfoot researcher, and she is the lady who, I don't know what happened to her lawsuit, but at one point she was suing the state of California because she's,
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I interviewed her a long time ago.
I remember
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But she had an experience actually of Bigfoot with her two daughters, and one of her daughters actually did also urinate because she was just so frightening. And it was interesting because I was listening to one interview that Claudia did about that experience, and she was talking about how they could see the Bigfoot running, and it was running like through duff, like dried leaves. She said you could see it running, but I think it was like you could see it running, but you didn't hear what you would expect to hear with the crunching and kicking up of the leaves. So I thought it was interesting because that kind of points to like more of a less physical Bigfoot, but she was just reporting what happened and what she experienced. She wasn't trying to make it like fit into one particular pattern or another, and she was very big on that there was a physical element, a physical threat. So I was really sorry to hear that she passed, but I think something like that really shows you that something has happened to scare someone that bad. So
how did she pass? I thought I heard heart attack or something weird like that. Something strange.
Yeah, I didn't hear. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, she wasn't super old.
Yeah.
So I feel for her family.
And then Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Linda Godfrey. There's been a lot of those type situations that are weird.
Yeah, David Perkins.
That's what I was going to say. David Perkins, that one kind of wrecked me a little bit. I guess I didn't know that he was ill.
Yeah.
Because he, right before he died, like the week before he died, he and I had a conversation online.
Yeah, he was he's one of those people that I always try and hold him up as like a way to interact with and treat people who have these interests, because he was always very very thoughtful. And if he was having some type of conversation somewhere with a bunch of other people, and he felt like I would be interested or would have something to contribute, he would make sure to tag me. And if I didn't say something, he'd say, Stephanie, blah, 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 and I thought, he had, many other exciting people to talk to and everything, but, he would cultivate people who had a similar interest, even if he didn't have like the big names or whatever. And it made a big impression on me. I thought he was very kind, and he just, he liked trees and nature. He was a real interesting guy and admirable too. So yeah, it was pretty, awful. But,
Did you want to tell your story about the tent, Christina? About the tent?
Yeah, tell the story about the tent.
I can. I feel odd because I told that last time. But basically, I didn't wake up, thankfully, being dragged out of the tent because that would have been more traumatizing. But I woke up with half my torso outside of the tent, and I knew that was odd enough to know, being raised how I was by a hunter and so on. Anything that would have pulled me out would have woke up other people in the tent, probably sadly eating me and not dragging me out. So it was a very weird situation. So, but even at the time, I thought it was probably a Sasquatch. I don't know why that came through my mind.
How old were you?
What that was? I was in junior high, and I was at Mingus Mountain in Arizona, which is supposed to be a very, all of the U.S. is, but very like Native American spiritual. Where even my mom, who's part Cherokee up there, drums play once where there wasn't anybody there physically, at least like playing, but she heard them. So there's something to it. I don't know.
And what was your about the wolf that we saw? Whatever it was we saw that was weird.
Well, basically that night we were supposed to do the show together and the guest canceled, and so we shifted gears and decided to go run over to Walmart and do some business we needed to get done, as always. Like, let's go do more work. Anyway, so last thing I wrote down on the paper, where again, there's no such thing as a coincidence, right? There's synchronizations, or trying to get you to see, I think, stories and see that things are very similar. But wrote down dog. I hate to say dog man because I don't think it's specific. I'm sure there's like a female version of it, but I just wrote dog man on there. And within 5 minutes of driving outside of Little Graceville, Florida, on the way to Chipley on the right, it's all fields out there in the middle of nowhere land. Looked over to the right and saw what looked like a wolf, but in the area we're in, I knew right away. I was like, we don't have wolves here. That's not a coyote. It's a really big coyote. It's like, again, logically trying to figure it all out in my nursing brain. And yeah, I just thought, okay, dog man, I understand. Like I couldn't we need to quit talking about these things like it's not a joke. Like I've told him about the shows he watches sometimes where it's like, yeah, logic screaming that we need to stop pretending this is not a case. Like, oh, I don't want these things coming in to speak with me anymore. It's not funny. Like I'm always the person trying to like stop talking about being anally probed. Like, no. Back from Arizona, he has like weird issues going on where I'm like, are you ever gonna listen to me? No, you're not. So anyway,
for some reason I have itchy feet and itchy butt lately.
Exactly.
And I have to put stuff on it, like doctor stuff.
And tells me to do it. I said,
Freud would love our conversation because it always comes back to buttholes. It's like every single thread of our conversation has eventually made its way to a butthole of some type.
I want to know ours just don't have like a built-in window wiper from the creator, like something better.
Maybe that's the portal. That's what we're supposed to understand. Like, yeah, that's the gutter, and that's the reflection of the world.
I call it everlasting ass when I have to wipe it. And I'm like, come on, like mad about it. Like, you know, I tried the bidet thing, but no, that's not a good idea either.
I've tried to tell him, okay, no joke, while I'm in Arizona, I'm a nurse. He doesn't ask me, what should I do with such and such? So he has to go Google it, which makes no sense. So what does he do? Put petroleum jelly in his rectum.
Okay.
I'm going to go there. You got me on the show. We're going to go there. I'm the nurse. So he doesn't ask me. No. And he's trying to convince me all this time later that he has a dry butt.
I'm suddenly feeling like I'm in a FetLife conversation.
I am bundling up out there. It's like, I'm not here. I said, don't put petroleum. Do not put petroleum in your butt, Jeffrey, to try to fix swamp butt.
And the only thing going on with it, but
you're just denying that closet all day.
You ever seen Doom Patrol on HBO? It's a crazy superhero show.
Jesus,
There's an army of butts. Like it's like they escaped from a government lab, and there's like an army of butts. But
and Jeffrey does like watching shows with very weird things. That's all I'm going to say. He makes me go, "What the heck?" And I never thought I would say that. And then he doesn't go down my "what the heck" door.
No, a lot of times there's shows that I don't realize what they are, and then they are. Like there's this movie
He's
called,
trying to take
like
back
what state was that movie? The Sinful Dwarf. Like it's some crazy movie about it's like a Norwegian weird movie that's from the 70s, and I saw a dwarf on the poster, and I was like, well, this looks interesting. It turns out it's like a weird porn, like from the 70s. The dwarf's like doing stuff with his cane. I'm like, what the hell is this? But look it up, The Sinful Dwarf, or not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out all the downloads you found when I wasn't here.
This is basically the show of things not to Google.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not even going to. I remember I'm in this one group that's called. Oh, what is it called? This one Facebook group that's called. I can't. What is it called? Something about. Hold on. I have to look it up. It's something about something about a suitcase, but we'd have to burn the whole suitcase instead, or something, or this one. Satan shuffles papers. Well, I don't even have a form for this one. That's. Oh, here it is. There's a lot. This is the name of the group. There's a lot to unpack here, but we should burn the whole suitcase instead. That's the name of the group. And at one point, somebody posted just a link and said, "Don't go to this link or you will be sorry." So of course, what did I have to do? I got on my VPN and went to the link, and I was sorry.
Yep.
It was basically FetLife for people who have sex with animals, and it was like, I don't want to know this. I don't want to know this. I immediately left.
Well, my favorite is when you have these kind of fetish posts that show up. Like they used to do this a lot on Reddit. It's like it'll be like unpopular opinion, and it'll be someone posting about some kind of fetish thing, but it's like kind of plausible deniability, and so you get all these responses where people are trying to interact with this idea in good faith, and then at a certain point, someone goes and checks this person's profile, and they're like, "Oh my god."
I know it's true.
Yeah. So
I've been guilty of that. It's like the whole goatsy thing, which if anybody, some people in the internet universe will know what that is, and some of you will not. And I'm not going to tell you if you don't know.
It relates to the show's theme, though, however.
Yeah, it does in an odd sort of way. Yes, it does. It does. Which, interestingly enough, this topic that we have set first.
Yes.
I actually got an interesting request. You saw the interview that I did with Leilani. And as a result of that interview, and as a result of an inquiry that somebody on one of her Facebook groups made, I interrupted what seems to be the interminable length of a blog post that I've been working on, because it's just too heartbreaking for me to actually figure out when it's going to be done, to work on something that I actually know a fair bit about. Mm-hmm. But I've just never talked with anybody about it, and that is the subject of ice magic, how to work with ice as an element, because in the Northern European traditions, ice is sort of it's sort of understood, at least in the occult practices of groups like the Brotherhood of Saturn, the Fraternatus Saturni, that Stephen Flowers talks about, and the Dragon Rouge and some of those German groups. Ice is really, and certainly in certain rune groups, ice is seen as kind of like a fifth element.
Okay.
And certainly ice and icy things figured intensely, obviously, in the mythology and lore and folklore, even, and magic of folklore magic of Northern Europe. And so I actually have a fair amount of information about this. And in fact, the last time I talked to Stephen Flowers, it wasn't the last time Jeffrey interviewed him, but the last time that I was there and talked to him, we had sort of an off-the-air conversation. I don't know if Jeffrey remembers this, but before we got started, we had sort of an off-the-air conversation about ice magic. And he told me that there was actually a fair amount of work that had been done in like the Brotherhood of Saturn on ice magic, but none of it had been published. None of it had been translated or published. And like, I don't know what that material is, but anyway, so, but years and years ago, I realized that I had been working with ice a long time anyway, just sort of instinctively. That was something that I had always kind of done. And then when I had my first rune teacher, she had told me some things about the beings that are associated with ice. We call them giants or frost giants or jotun, or actually in Swedish, they're called trolls. That's where we get the word troll. The troll, it's more like troll. In my research, because when I do like a teaching presentation, it's rather than just a blog, I feel like I have to give people resources where they can sort of check some of this stuff out themselves if they want to. And for me, the resources need to be easy, where people can actually find these things instead of some of the weird esoteric stuff that I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's this woman, she's a YouTube influencer, and she's an artist, and her husband is a silversmith, but they live in a rural area of Sweden. They in a small village, outside of a small village, and she does this her name is Jonna Yinton, and she does these really beautiful, she's also a photographer, these really beautiful film montages and photos and sound recordings of ice and of just the kind of the landscape that she lives in northern Sweden, which is very rugged and very intense. Like there's this, the village is by this big lake, and in the wintertime, when it freezes, and of course it's far enough north that, for 3 months out of the year, the sun never sets, and it never really rises, at the darkest and lightest times of the year. And she goes out there in the winter when that lake starts to freeze over, and she takes audio tape of the sounds that the ice makes. And it's really creepy. It's really interesting. So she kind of leads you through the different seasons and some of the holiday stuff, like around Christmas. That is some of it, which is very clearly pagan in origin, like Saint Lucia Day, where the woman leaves the house and walks around wearing a crown topped with candles.
Yes.
To bring the light back in. But there's this one video of theirs where they talk about how they only hear this mostly in the wintertime. They don't hear this so much in the summer. But behind their house, they live outside the village, this very tiny village, near where there's a blacksmith that lives near them. But behind them, there is this huge forest. It's massive. Her husband sends up a drone. You can see how large it is. It's massive. It's huge forest, just untracked forest. Probably has never been chopped down or anything. Just massive forest. And they talk about how it's really creepy in the forest, and that in the wintertime, you can hear voices coming out of the forest and really strange sounds. And so they've begun a project where they go out into the forest at night for a little bit and set up recording instruments and to see if they can capture any of it. But apparently they've tried to venture into the forest and they can't stand it after a little while because they feel like there are beings that are watching them. And but it mostly happens in the wintertime that they hear this, in the deep winter. And And then she's also had this really interesting experience, not that long ago, just a few months ago, where there's this one area that's to the north, even further north from where she lives, there's a little town called Abisko or something like that. And it has these really interesting mountains that have been sculpted, obviously by glaciers at some point. You know what I mean? Huge, when the whole area was nothing but, covered by ice caps. And she had this really strange experience where she was looking at these mountains, and they're beautiful because they're sculpted in these really odd ways, and kind of almost looking unworldly. And she does a really good job of like showing them. This is all on YouTube, by the way. So her name is Jonna Jintin. It's JONNAJINTIN, I think, or TON. Anyway, if you just say her first name, Jonna, you'd probably find her. But she had this experience where she was looking at the mountains, and all of a sudden she felt them. She felt them humming in her head. And she realized that it was like the consciousnesses of the mountains, and that's the power of what used to be called like frost giants and rock giants, because they were the protectors of those realms. And and that's, just like the indigenous people here where I live, you were told that in the wintertime, you were not to go out wandering around in the woods or in the mountains by yourself, because not just because of wolves, which were there, and European wolves are bigger than North American wolves, but because there are other beings that live in these places.
Is that the lady did a spirit song, a Nordic lullaby? JONNAJINTON?
Yeah. Okay. She's got a lot of stuff in there. I mean, she's in some ways, she's a YouTube influencer, so some of what she does is very fashionable. You know what I mean? She kind of looks like, she's a very beautiful young woman, so she kind of looks like the stereotype of some Nordic chick, but she actually does some real stuff too, and a lot of the recordings that she makes of the ice, and she also shares with people how difficult it is to live in the winter there. I mean, and they live in much better circumstances. They have electricity, they have some plumbing, you know what I mean? I mean, they have to keep all that stuff up, but they do have that. If you think, and they have to fight to keep that stuff working. But if it's like a balmy day when it's 0 degrees outside. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? They also have a really wonderful dog, by the way. He's a very cute. Whenever I watch her videos, I think of you, Stephanie, because the dog is very, very cute. I mean, they've named him Nanook, which I consider to be, it's like, oh, please, but it's like, what kind of appropriation is that? But he's a good dog.
That is, speaking of resources, if people want to read about sense of place and mountains and spirit of mountains, there is a fantastic book, Living with a Wild God by Barbara. Oh, and I'm blanking on her last name.
Okay, hold on. I'll look her up.
Yeah. She's a very prominent, popular writer. But in that book, and she did a lot of writing on politics and kind of popular science.
Oh, Barbara Ehrenreich.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. That book is about her experience of a mystical, some type of consciousness in the Sierra Nevada mountains as a young woman, and how this drove her a life purpose ever since, just trying to confront this experience of this consciousness. And what really struck me about that is that when I was growing up, my family went camping in the Sierra Nevadas a lot when we were growing up. And I had the same experience of that presence of just that consciousness of the mountains. And it's fascinating because the Sierra Nevadas are also very glacially influenced, right, because they were carved by glaciers. If you look at like the famous shape of like Yosemite Valley, Kings Canyon and stuff, these were carved by glaciers. Very dramatic, and you feel the presence of the welling up of this granite,
right,
forming all these mountains, but at the same time, like the presence and the absence of the glaciers and the snow, and it's like you really feel like it's almost like ghost glaciers, because their glaciers are gone in most of the Sierra Nevadas, but you still have that, a presence of them everywhere because they shape that land. And it's funny too, just because different approaches about the forest. Because when we were camping, it's like the forest never felt like really threatening, but it's when you get above the tree line that things get really dicey in the Sierra Nevadas, because then you're starting to get like a very high altitude, and
right. Have trouble breathing and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, right. It becomes a lot dicier. Actually, I'm going to tell a story that is kind of terrible, but it fits with our theme. My brother is a big outdoorsman, has been for all his life. Now he works as a fly fishing guide. Many years ago, he was, and this is like before GPS and everything, where you had to, it was more like a compass and maps. He was hiking up in the backcountry of the Sierra Nevadas, backpacking. And one morning he got up and he was above the tree line, right? So it's just like, bushes and stuff around. And he was on this thing. And so he was kind of doing his morning stuff, and he sees two women that he doesn't know. They're like, "Hi, how you doing?" He's like, "Hi, how you guys doing?" They're like, "Well, we're lost. We've been lost for a couple of days. Do you know where you are?" He's like, "Yes, I know where I am. It's like, "Can you help us?" He's like, "Yes, I can help you get sorted and everything." And they were like, I don't know, he's just like some guy. I mean, he doesn't look like super scary or anything. He's like a big guy, but it's like these two women were just like glommed onto him like right away. They'd been lost. They were completely turned around. They were panicking. It's interesting, when you talk about people who get lost, I think this kind of speaks to that they were just like immediately, okay, you're going to help us. How desperate you can feel when you get lost, it was like, I don't know, like 10,000, 12,000 feet or something. And they've been lost a couple of days. So they're like, okay, you're going to help us. He was like their knight in shining armor. And he's like, okay, just let me finish what I'm doing. And they're like, okay. And they're just like, won't take their eyes off him, which, as it happened, he was popping a squat. They're just like waiting for him to be done. And of course, he's like at altitude, so you get dehydrated and everything. So it's kind of like, twiddling your thumbs. But he helped him out, which I think speaks to their desperation, that you just see some guy you don't even know just like hauled off the side of the trail. You're like, help us.
Spectacular.
But he did, because he's a stand-up guy.
Well, no, the reason that that's really, really funny to me is that, and I've talked a little bit about this before. I can't remember where. I think it was with Barbara Fisher. My favorite set of stories, like, I've got several different types of favorite indigenous stories, but some of my favorite ones are the ones that are Hopi stories about Grandmother Spider, because Grandmother Spider is this really powerful entity. She's like the most powerful entity, like for the Hopi, but you always meet her, or you frequently meet her in the following circumstance. When you're going to the bathroom,
oh my gosh,
and you're in the middle of it, and you hear a voice that says, and you're thinking about a problem. I mean, what's fascinating about these stories is that whenever this happens, the person who is going to the bathroom is always has some problem that's occupying their mind, which tells me that the whole phenomenon of thinking on the toilet is not unique, to the West.
It's so funny. This is a sync because when I was talking about the apartment that we lived in that was built for Carol, and Carol said, I always get all my greatest ideas on the pot.
Right. Well, anyway, in these stories, they'll be thinking about whatever their idea is and doing their business, and they'll hear a voice that'll say, could you move over a little bit? And they'll look down, and Grandmother Spider is appearing to them as one of those trapdoor spiders. You know what I mean? And because the trapdoor spiders hang out in those places where the bathrooms, where they go to the bathroom, because that's where the bugs hang out. And so so basically she'll be like, finish up. And then when you're done, first she's saying, don't poop on my house. And then she's like, when you're done, put your foot, come down and see me. And the person's always like, I can't, the opening's like this big, tiny, tiny little opening. And she'll say, just put your foot down here and twist your foot. And so you do. And it's just like flu powder and Harry Potter. All of a sudden, you're down at her house. And then she like tells you exactly what you need to know. Like if you need to go see grandfather rattlesnake for some issue, she knows exactly where to find him, exactly what offerings to give him. You know what I mean? It's just because she created all of it, so she knows everybody. So there's this one story about this guy, this kid who wants to help his village because his village is being attacked by like this ogre, by this monster, but nobody thinks that he can do anything about it because he's kind of short and misshapen and ugly. But he doesn't want, he wants to try to do something in order that people will think better of him, basically. So that whole thing happens to him, and she sends him on this. Well, and this ogre has carried like all these people away, these beautiful young women away and these men away. And so, but Grandmother Spider tells him like who's been doing it and where he lives and what he needs to do. And I mean, the way that the story unfolds, it involves it's just bizarre. It involves shape shifting and somebody having sex with somebody else until they kill them. I mean, it's like one of these stories where you're like, oh my God, but then at the very end, he gets the girl and liberates all the people that haven't been eaten yet by the ogre and his wife, because that's what the ogre and his wife were actually doing, was capturing people to eat them. And it's just, I love these monster stories.
That's so wild.
And you only tell these stories again in the wintertime, after the harvest, when it's raining or there's not anything to do, not very much to do. I mean, here in the Northeast, you were only to tell stories like that around this time, during the darkest time of the year, because that's when all the beings that you're talking about are asleep.
Yeah. So you can talk behind their backs.
You can talk behind their backs. Otherwise, they're going to hear you talking, and they're going to come, and they're going to, they're talking about us. They'll come to your door.
like Christina, the dog man.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to get back to the ice magic, because one of my favorite, because it's related to the aurora. One of my favorite books is Seven Gothic Tales by Isaac Dinesen. And one of my favorite tales in that book is The Supper at Elsinore. And it revolves around, now she was a Danish author, and this is taking place in Denmark, kind of in the Edwardian era. but also kind of outside of time, because this story revolves around like a folk tale that in the town of Elsinore, there's a river that runs through it, and on some winters the river will freeze over, and when the river is frozen like that, then you can receive visits from ghosts. So there's these two sisters who were elderly who were living there, and when they were very young, they were very beautiful and very socially active and everything, but they suffered from horrendous melancholia, so they never actually married anyone, and so they just been kind of existing kind of outside of time, and that, like never buying anything new or whatever. For like many decades, they'd had a very dashing brother who broke many hearts, very handsome, athletic, charismatic, who had disappeared when he was young. And they never knew what happened to him. So they've been kind of in this state of suspended animation for decades. And then one night, one winter, the river is frozen over, and one night they're sat down to supper, and the ghost of their brother comes and visits them. And he had gone on to go out and be a pirate and do all type of exciting and terrible things. He'd lived a very active physical life and died due to murder or something terrible. So there's that contrast, but then the supper ends when you can hear that the ice starting to break up, and you hear the cracking of the ice. It's very, if you like Gothic stuff, I cannot recommend that book enough. It's very eerie and strange. But I always thought that book was very interesting because it gets into much like the properties of, like you say, of elements, and then of particular like environmental weather, meteorological conditions. We've been having in the last few months, I follow some aurora chasing accounts on Twitter, and we've been having a lot of coronal mass ejections that then when they hit the Earth's atmosphere, they'll make these incredibly beautiful auroras. And some of them have been coming very low. We had one about a week and a half ago that we had some aurora just like maybe a half an hour from here at Sears Point, which is very unusual to see it around here. I saw the aurora once actually in my apartment that I talked about earlier. But that's the only time I've ever seen it. Anyway, what's interesting to me, a lot of people have noticed this, is the relationship of sunspot to kind of psi expression, right? You're going to get more telepathy, more synchronicities, more PK, more ghost reports, possibly UFOs. All this type of stuff will tend to kick up when you have the increased sunspot activity. And I've known a number of people online who have been having some sync storms recently with all the aurora activity. But interestingly for me, I have a guy I know online who a very nice, very creative, who has like an ongoing kind of a mystical and erotic relationship with his girlfriend who had died a number of years ago. And he lives in an area where it's like, I mean, it's pretty taboo in most areas. He lives in an area where it's very taboo. But we talk and stuff. He's a very creative, fun person. But part of his problem is that he can only experience like a connection with her at certain times. And other times it's kind of like you're thinking, but that person is not there. I mean, I think it's just like, in physicalities. I mean, sometimes things don't work where you can meet up with the person for whatever reason. But it was about a month or two ago, he had a visit from her unexpectedly, a nice connection with her. And within like 24 hours, he had met a woman. And she mentioned that she also has an ongoing relationship with her husband who is deceased, and she had a visit with him like in the same amount of time. And this is when they were having auroras right over where he was living intensely. So I thought that was kind of interesting that, you had these people. I mean, it's kind of like, that he was able to have this visit from his girlfriend, but then also that he would meet this woman who would just also say, it's kind of like a synchronous thing that they would come together and be able to have that exchange about how they both had those visits. So I know there's something about, and then of course the auroras tend to be brighter at like the North Pole or the poles, because that's where the Earth catches that energy. So
this Yona that I was telling you about, she has some amazing footage of the aurora borealis, which I've never actually seen in its full spread. You know what I mean? I've seen like where I live, it's not uncommon for if you're out of pollution, light pollution, to be able to see some of it, to see kind of a glow, because I live far enough north, but I've not yet seen it in its kind of wispy, full curtained glory.
Yeah.
I've not seen that yet. And I understand that in person, when you're actually looking up at it, it's so three-dimensional that it really can't be captured in film.
Yeah, I would love to experience that.
It's beautiful. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, I had a nightmare, and I don't normally have remember dreams or nightmares, but there was a weird pink demon trying to eat me. And it was very weird. It was like it had a big eye and lots of little eyes. I almost Lovecraftian weird and little hands. It was like the whole nightmare was me. And I think it was a gay pink demon, because that's the impression I got with the pink. But which that's
it sounds kind of like a weird Trumple gooch.
But basically, I was holding it back in the nightmare like 3 or 4 times, and I don't know what it was trying to gooch me or what, but it didn't get me. But I was scared when I woke up. I was freaking out. Something felt weird. And I felt strange about, it made me feel like sick. I was like, was that really like a demon trying to eat me in my nightmare? Like, I don't normally remember anything like that.
Yeah. So, when they have that dream hangover, can be really a creepy feeling.
Yeah, especially with that. And when you're holding it back, and it seems real, like Freddy.
Yeah.
But it was a weird pink demon. If he's gay, that's his business. I'm not. He can go be gay with another pink demon, but he seemed like he was definitely messing with me on some level, whatever it was.
That's what I mean. It sounded like a Trumplegooch. It sounded like a Trumplegooch cherubim or seraphim or whatever has all the eyes.
Exactly. Yeah, it was like kind of a little too biblically accurate for.
Yeah, it's sort of like a cross between Trumplegooch and Proganoskis or something, from A Wrinkle in Time. No, A Wind in the Door. That's what A Wind in the Door.
Yeah, I don't like food with eyeballs.
And I might these are kind of like a fear that we're taking.
Food with eyeballs.
Yeah, so it's like he's dealing with some weird butt monster that he's scared is attacking him. All I know is, no joke, I was awake in my weird bewitching hour between midnight and 4 a.m. and that's when it happened, probably around 3. And I was doing laundry around the corner, and I felt this awkward anxiety. I couldn't breathe, and I didn't know where it was coming from. Even talking about it, I'm getting that same feeling of anxiety. And I was like, where's this coming from? I can't breathe. And then he comes around the corner right then, shaking, and he goes, I'm having a nightmare. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. And then he tells me what it is, and I'm like, wow, okay.
Me too. I was surprised.
It's a pink demon covered with eyes.
Isn't there like a yokai in Japan that is like it's like a big butt, but it has like an eyeball there?
See, that's totally what I just thought of, and I've never seen that. But yeah, it's almost like his deep fear is coming after him, Wait, let me get my dildo. I'll beat its butt for you, okay?
Well, lately I'm having a lot of hemorrhoidal stuff.
Exactly.
And wiping issues.
I believe there's always something to this.
Maybe my butt wants to be sexual and I'm not letting it, and it's just upset.
See, that's the root of this entire conversation is a Jeffrey's butt.
Kind of. So soon. Doom Patrol, you just laugh because
Oh,
butt that sing show tunes.
Oh God.
And a lot of the shows we watch has a theme. That's all I'm gonna say. So
A lot of the shows, I don't know what's going to be in it, and it turns out, something. Every show's like that lately.
Is like what? What is every show like?
I don't know, like
We've had some good shows, Jeffrey.
I'm talking about like
Not this one, but we've had some good one.
TV shows.
what was
TV
that
shows.
one you told me about?
TV show. The
The
Julia Child of Sex Magic. I just saw that. I just saw that. Yeah, I can just see Stephanie's like, oh.
Who's the Julia Child of butt magic?
You know what I think? It's a reflection of the earth and what's going on.
I will never see you the same again. Why did I just see that? How long has that been up there? Did you put that up there? Or did Jeffrey put that up there?
It's been my Twitter handle for years because because I got on Twitter, like I didn't have any followers or anything, and like my mom and my sister and my brother are on Twitter, and my mom and my sister are both, well, my brother too. They're all like really good cooks, really good. My sister's been like professional baker for a lot of her life and everything. So it was just kind of like a way to
differentiate you from the
kind of making fun of, kind of a joke for my family, but then it stuck, and then I forgot it was there, and then more people thought it was hilarious. But I do believe what I like about Julia Child is that she started becoming more prominent when she was older, but she has this great attitude that if you just want to put in the time and learn and practice, that you're going to be able to come up with these techniques and dishes and experiences that are enjoyable for you and whoever you're sharing them with, instead of like feeling like, well, especially at the time she wrote, it's like French cuisine, it's like you have to go someplace special and spend all this money, and you might not, whatever. She's like, no, you can do this for yourself. And so I like that approach to for sex magic, especially because then people
people get so hoity-toity about sex magic, and sex magic can be pretty basic. I will never forget. Like I used to watch her show, and she would film some of her mistakes, and one of the funniest things I ever saw was she was doing some kind of a dish with a really big fish, and she was going to show you like how to fillet a fish, and so she had this, like, I don't know if you saw it, it's like a massive tuna. I mean, like, it was a ginormous fish. It was probably 3 feet long. It was huge, and she wrestled it up onto her cabinet, or where she was going to do it, and she flipped it up there, and it got away from her and went right the garbage pail. And she just handled it. She goes, well, whoop, and then she just picked it up again. It was just, but it was just the reaction. It was great, And I suppose that's a great approach to sex magic. It's like, well, that didn't work. Okay, let's try this one over here.
Yeah, she's she had a great attitude, and she's like focusing on, you may as well like enjoy life and what you're up to, what you're doing. So but yeah, it mostly started as a way I thought, ha, my poor mom when she sees this on Twitter.
Was she really a spy? Because I looked that up, and there is stuff about her being a spy.
Yeah,
no, she was. Yeah.
What? Like, really?
She also worked during World War II to help develop shark repellent. Because they had for like the Navy and stuff. But yeah, she worked for the intelligence agencies. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
She
a
worked
trip.
for the OSS, which was what it was before the CIA, it became the CIA.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Sure. I was going to ask you, Wham, what's going on with Mercury retro? What other planets are going on right now?
What other planets are going on? All the planets are always going on. The planets are constantly happening. Okay.
Like blinking in and out of existence.
just a second.
Yeah.
I think if I remember right, that Mercury retrograde, which I think it's in. Hold on, I think that it's in Gemini right now. Yeah. Okay. Mercury. Oh, now Mercury's no Mercury. I was wrong. Mercury's retrograde in Capricorn. Which means that, and I've already experienced some of that. It means that you're going to get stuff done. You're going to get. I mean, communications are going to happen, but they're going to feel like it takes forever. Like you're going to have to communicate things 7 times and be very concise and careful. It's just going to take longer to do crap, is what it is. Venus is in Scorpio right now. Mars is in Sagittarius. Jupiter is retrograde in Taurus. It's been in Taurus for a while. It's been in retrograde for a while. What's interesting is that in December and early January, a lot of planets change. So for example, Mercury is in retrograde. It comes out of retrograde in January 13th, I believe, but it enters Sagittarius on the 23rd of December, which will change its energy quite a lot. Will make it more annoying. Venus is in Scorpio, but will enter Sagittarius on December 29th. Mars is in Sagittarius, but will enter Capricorn on January 4th. And let's see, what else is anything? Oh, yeah, this Uranus that's also been retrograde in Taurus will go direct January 27th. And Pluto has been in Capricorn, but will enter Aquarius for quite a while. Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus are like generational signs.
Yeah.
Generational planets. So Pluto has been in Capricorn for a few years actually now, but it will enter Aquarius on January 20th. And I would imagine, I'm just going to guess, but I would imagine that there's going to be some major political issue or change around that time.
Trump, Hitler.
Well, maybe, but I mean, I think it's going to, I think ultimately Trump is only important to us. He's not important to the rest of the world. I'm talking about stuff that's going on in the Middle East, stuff that's going on in the Ukraine. I'm talking about stuff that actually has bigger world import than Mr. Tiny Penis Man. Because I think that he exaggerates his importance and we exaggerate his importance, and that's part of the reason why he's a problem. So that's kind of what's going on at the moment.
Is it usual for that many planets to be in retrograde?
That's normal. It's actually very normal. It's more normal for planets to be in retrograde, at least 1 or 2, than for them not. It's more unusual for them to be all direct. There's almost always at least one in retrograde. And the Mercury, this last Mercury in retrograde, this is the last one for a little while. The one that we are going in right now. There's usually 2 or 3 a year. and I don't know about you, but this year I have the Mercury in retrogrades. Usually they don't bother me too much. I just can sort of ignore them. But for some reason this year they've been a little bit more, and I mean a little bit more marked in the sense that it's like very distinct things have happened. Like when Mercury went retrograde this time, it was like I just had these bizarre things happen that didn't make any sense whatsoever. And the more I tried to fix them, the more they didn't work. So basically with one of the problems today, I just thought to myself, I'm not going to try to fix this. I'm not going to try to fix it. What I'm going to try to do is just kind of shove a little bit more energy at it and just start over. And it worked. I did exactly the same thing that I'd done before, and it didn't work. This time it worked. Who knows why?
Yeah. I had an incident like that this morning, actually, so that's kind of weird.
And it had to do with communications, but not electronics. You know what I mean? It had to do with, so, but, Capricorn, when Capricorn touches things, stuff happens. So anyway.
Well, now we're going to sing a Christmas song.
Okay, go ahead.
Sleigh bells ringing. Da-na-na-na. Da-na-na. Da-na-na-na.
Before the show ends, I have to add something. Being a Virgo and representing Mercury.
Okay.
Mr. Jeffrey, the Capricorn, he's got multiple good things about him, but he always tries to blame Mercury for everything. And it's like, excuse me, Mercury shouldn't be blamed because we're trying to bring up things that need to be dealt with all the time. Well, he's trying to run away from everything. So I'm like, let's deal with the things. Because again, you don't deal with it, right? It'll come back up again, even as a dream or a nightmare.
Well, here's the deal, Mr. Jeffrey, man. I don't know that this is true, but if it is true what she's saying, here's the deal with Saturn. Saturn says that if you do the work, you will get the reward. So whatever work you're not wanting to do, you're actually keeping your reward from yourself. So, I mean, because I've got lots of Saturn in my chart. I mean, Saturn is like right up my butt since we've been talking about butts, and I have to deal with Saturn every day, and I have Capricorn rising, Saturn and Capricorn in the first house. I've is lots of Saturn, so it's like if you do the work, you get the reward.
What are they saying? Saturn's going to lose its rings?
Not during your lifetime, sir. We're talking millions of years. The rings are only a few million years old. I mean, when the dinosaurs were around, like the peak of the dinosaurs, I don't think Saturn even had rings then. The rings are temporary things. Temporary adornments, huh?
There's some discussion about it from science sites and stuff, but I didn't know how serious it was or whatever.
Yeah. I think it was one of Saturn's moons and it got pulled apart. It got too close or something.
I heard an ambulance, an emergency.
I heard a whistling. I don't know what it was.
We have one here. We're right next to the main highway up and down the valley here, so we always get a bunch of sirens going.
Yeah, occasionally the fire alarm here, the fire station that we're right next to goes off, and then it'll sound like an air raid siren, like right outside the house.
And, I just want to say, listen to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans, and we'll be taking a break after this show for a few weeks and be back January 5th with Eric Grimsrud for the Fuhrer Shipper von Trumpelgut show, and then we'll have Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, and then Christina Giordano, and then the Satanist dude for January.
And then the Satanist dude.
Yeah. And the big thing with, I'm glad to take a break. I get burned out. And the biggest thing I get burned out with is scheduling. Like, there's a lot of publishers that I've worked with for years, and they've never had any problems ever. They just like stop talking to you. I don't know if they just say, we're not scheduling people right now, just ignore you. Like, I've had that happen a lot, and there's nothing bad that's happened. It's just, I don't know, it's just weird. It just happens, I guess. But then a lot of people being late for the show, not time zone mess ups. It's just, that's the part of it that's like, ugh, it burned out like crap after 16 years of scheduling. Yeah. But it seems worse definitely this month for some reason. Like, it's just been a circus. But I got January figured out, so at least I got that. So what's going on for Christmas with you? What's going on with Wham and Stephanie? We're gonna do celebration eggnog.
We don't do Christmas. So I mean, seriously, I mean, I think Alan's family is probably going to be in the vicinity, but I avoid them studiously, not because they are terrible people, because they are not terrible people, but I just really don't like Christmas. And so I just really don't like the expectations surrounding it. So and I'm tired. To me, it's like I'm taking 10 days off, and I need to rest from my job, and I don't need to be dealing with lots of people or being expected to cook or, anything like that. So I'll probably do some kind of solstice thing, like the end of next week, because solstice is what, the 21st, 22nd, something like that. So I'll probably do something like that, and it'll be private, and then I'll be done. And then I will spend the next week having sleep and eat and Star Trek marathons and Battlestar Galactica marathons. And then I'll probably go visit a couple friends and have fun. And that's it.
Cool.
That sounds good. Oh, I wanted to say
just fun.
The Earth has been chatting at us, and I've been enjoying it. I'm terrible I can't like talk and like read at the same time, which I feel terrible with, because they have that capability on these things now, but I'm like, I can't do it.
Oh yeah. There's the chat. There's the chat. The Earth has been chatting at us. Hi, Earth. Z Sun Dragon, the Earth.
Protect and love the Earth, Jeffrey.
Yay!
And
oh yeah. By the way, if you are all interested,
it's Rachel. Hi.
If you are interested in ice magic, I will be recording something about it this weekend, and then hopefully it will be done by the end of the weekend and I can put it up. It's not going to be like a regular blog. I may announce it on my blogs, but I'm not going to like reproduce a transcript of it like I usually do, because some of this is not like a regular blog. This is like a teaching presentation. But if you want to kind of get into the spirit of all of that, when it's cold, this is what you do. When it's cold and the wind is up, you go outside. You go outside and you face the wind, and you allow yourself to get as cold as you can stand. And you listen. And it's good to take an offering, because that's how you avoid being picked up by the wild hunt. Frau Hilda.
It's interesting you're talking about the wild hunt, because, first of all, the Earth said that Shirame is the butthole eye yokai, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm glad someone knew that.
I know, we're blessed. Because we're just going to have like, it's terrible. We get like a box holiday meal from like Whole Foods or Safeway or something.
Right.
Which is fine. My brother might come down, but my dad and my bonus mom Doris came last weekend, and they have Swedish Valhund dogs Pi, and then they have a puppy, Ludwig. And these are dogs from Sweden. They're kind of like the ancestors to the corgis. They're like low. They look like real short, like German shepherds or something.
Mhm.
They're an ancient breed, but they were bred to herd everything from ducks all the way up to cattle, which
Wow.
means they have like these horrifyingly piercing barks. but they're really smart. They're great. They're gorgeous. They're very, very furry because they're up there in the cold. But I had known Pi since she's several years old, since she was a little puppy, but I hadn't seen her for quite a while. They came over, and with Ludwig, who's like the new dog that they have, and he's so mellow and sweet, and he's really beautiful. But it was so funny seeing Pi because she got so excited and she was like making all these unusual noises. I think she was trying to say, "I missed you, and this is the new this is the new dog that you need to meet, Ludwig." It's really great. So that was a lot of fun just for a Christmas thing, because my especially Doris, she does Christmas stuff. It's so fun because you go over to their house. They have this cute craftsman, and she has everything from like that they have like the tree, special lights, everything from like she'll put up like a shower curtain that's like Santa taking a shower, and like you look in the corner and there's like a cute little a candle tea light holder, and it's like a little mouse dressed up like an elf. It's just like everything.
It's like got all the kitsch.
Oh, it's just so funny. And she'll have like a big dinner and some champagne, and they collect like a carnival glass. So like the beautiful cutlery and table setting, and it's just like overall, but it's so fun because you get to go there, and she just, some years she won't do it, but other years they just like go all out, and it's just so fun to go over there and experience all that. And I haven't been over the last few years because of just like responsibilities and stuff like that, and COVID and everything. So it was really fun to have them over and see the dogs from the snowy north. I have a small neurotic Chihuahua, Oliver. And it was funny because we were like on the deck, and he was like, "Okay, this is way too much for me," because he's only like 7 pounds. So he was like staying inside the house with my mom. And they were like watching each other through the like sliding glass door, and they weren't barking or anything. And they're just like, So, but that was enough of that so that was my big Christmas celebration.
Well,
What are you gonna be doing, Jeffrey man?
Lots of eggnog and food, and lots of Christmas entertainment, lots of music,
Maybe
of
take a sitz bath.
A what bath?
A sitz bath.
What's that?
It's like you fill the tub or a bucket or something with the kind of like warm water, some Epsom salts, and you soak the affected area.
Yeah, we've been doing Epsom salt.
I call it his grandpa sits.
I call it the bum bath.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thanks to Christina, thanks to WHAM, thanks to Stephanie, and thanks to everybody who's still listening after all that budtastic talk.
Thank you to
appreciate it. Buttacular. Everybody have a good Christmas, and watch out for the Chinese cyber attacks that are happening, and hopefully World War III doesn't break out nuclear holocaust. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll catch you January 5th when we return. Take care. Keep on marching to the apocalypse.
Bye.
Good
Happy
night,
New Year.
everybody.